Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
San Diegans are mourning the killings of hundreds of civilians as fighting between Israeli Defense Forces and Hamas militants escalates. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. At least 9 Americans are confirmed to be among the dead, and we begin our coverage tonight with reporter Laura Aguirre. And a warning, the images are graphic and some viewers may find them disturbing.
This Gaza refugee camp is one of many retaliatory targets hit by Israeli forces Monday. The IDF says it has hit around 800 Hamas-related sites, and the strikes continue.
We will change reality on the ground in Gaza for the next 50 years. What was before will be no more.
Israeli strikes also landing in neighboring Lebanon, where the IDF claims gunmen are crossing the border into Israel. Israel's actions follow a surprise and unprecedented Hamas attack on Jewish targets Saturday, including a music festival where at least 260 people were gunned down. Many other civilians, including Americans, have been taken hostage by Hamas.
Thank you. All the institutions of the world that help kidnap civilians.
The death toll far into the hundreds on both sides and climbing. In the U.S., protesters in several cities are trading blame for the eruption of violence.
Many of us have been saying that the Palestinians are going to rise up. They're not going to, and you cannot expect them to sit on their hands.
The fact that we're still even arguing Jewish existence in 2023 is pretty shocking to me.
I pray for, civilians on both sides, civilian casualties. I mean, their lives are valued just as much.
I'm Laura Aguirre reporting.
And the shocking events over the weekend hit close to home for San Diegans on both sides of the conflict between Israel and Hamas. KPBS reporter Matt Hoffman has more.
There is time to talk about nuance and Israeli politics and the Palestinian challenge. What we are talking about now is a massive, coordinated, unprovoked attack by Hamas on the Israeli population.
President and CEO of the Jewish Federation of San Diego, Heidi Gantwerk, says she hasn't seen conflict like this in 50 years since the Yom Kippur War.
The number of casualties, the amount of destruction, the targeting of innocent civilians, and the numbers missing, captured, held hostage, it is something that is almost impossible to hold.
Gantwerk has a very personal stake. She says her son is currently in Jerusalem and hopes to have him home soon.
The community here is in shock. We have a big Israeli community here. Many of them have family or friends who have been affected, who are missing, who are injured. So we have San Diegans who are living in Israel right now who are also struggling.
The Jewish Federation is holding a vigil Tuesday evening in La Jolla. It's for those who've lost their lives and to show support for Israel. They're also collecting donations. Sabrine Demonhorty with the Palestinian Youth Movement's San Diego chapter says she hopes people understand that this conflict started long before Saturday.
Gaza has been in an open-air prison for 16 years, not necessarily just in Gaza, in the West Bank. There are settlements popping up left and right. So it's not unprovoked. This has been going on since 1940.
Demonhorty was born and raised in San Diego. She spent summers in the West Bank and says there's a growing humanitarian crisis in the region.
My personal family, they live in the West Bank area, so it's been a lot of the same thing. There's been a lot of shutdowns. Israel has been closing a lot of the electricity. The water has been getting cut in certain areas. My hopes really is just for a free and just Palestine.
Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
Around 4,500 healthcare workers across San Diego County are prepared to go on strike again if a deal isn't reached. A Kaiser Permanente spokesperson told KPBS that the union issued a notice to strike over the weekend. Workers would walk off the job November 1st through the 8th. Outsourcing in particular has emerged as a sticking point in negotiations. Kaiser and union negotiators are expected to return to bargaining on Thursday. Nearly 600,000 ballots are on their way to registered voters for the November 7th special election. Only voters who live in the 4th Supervisorial District, City of Chula Vista, the Fallbrook Public Utility District, and the Rainbow Municipal Water District will receive ballots this week. Elections will be held for the special runoff for District 4 County Supervisor, the Chula Vista City Attorney, and a ballot measure to detach from the San Diego County Water Authority. KPBS has explainers on each of the races. Tonight, reporter Gustavo Solis tells us about the candidates vying for City Attorney.
The winner of the City Attorney election will become Chula Vista's top lawyer. They'll give legal advice to the mayor, council, and every city department. It's a very important job, so says former City Council member Rudy Ramirez.
You want somebody who's apolitical and somebody who could just focus on the law.
So who are the candidates? Dan Smith Diaz was a federal public defender who owned a pedicab company in San Diego and then opened his own law firm in Chula Vista.
I started at Federal Defenders, so I know how to litigate. I have been a litigator for my entire career. And that means going to court and actually trying jury trial cases and winning them.
Marco Verdugo started his career as an intern in the Chula Vista City Attorney's Office. He's also worked for the San Diego City Attorney's Office and now works for a private law firm, advising the cities of Coronado and Solana Beach.
So I know what issues big cities face and the issues that smaller cities face, and I'm prepared to handle anything that Chula Vista is facing in the coming years.
The third candidate, Bart Meisfeld, responded after our broadcast deadline. His comments can be found on the KPBS website. Gustavo Solis, KPBS News.
For information on the special election, you can check out our voter hub at kpbs.org/vote. There you can find our voter guide in both English and in Spanish. 3 high-profile bills were among those Governor Newsom vetoed over the weekend, and one would have banned discrimination based on caste, which the governor said was unnecessary due to existing laws. Another aimed to reduce the price of insulin to $35 for a 30-day supply. Newsom blocked that bill, saying it would encourage insurance companies to raise monthly premiums and that California already has a contract to produce its own brand of insulin. The governor also vetoed a bill that would have decriminalized the use of plant-based hallucinogens, such as magic mushrooms. The governor still approved more bills than he blocked, including one making California the first state to ban some common food additives. Among the 4 chemicals banned is red dye number 3, a food coloring used in candy. The ban takes effect in the year 2027. Newsom said that gives companies time to revise their recipes and will give Californians greater confidence that their food is safe.
Once again, the marine layer is going to be the driving force behind our weather over the course of the next couple of days. And what does that mean? More clouds spreading their way from the coast into some of the interior valleys, as we see temperatures falling back into the low 50s around Ramona, 62 Chula Vista and Borrego Springs down into the mid-60s. Mount Laguna falling off to 54. Any changes, though, on the horizon? I'll let you know coming up in just a bit.
Thousands of San Diegans are celebrating Indigenous Peoples Day today at Miramar College. The celebration started with a performance by the Soaring Eagles of San Diego. The holiday replaced Columbus Day in California 4 years ago. KPBS North County reporter Alexander Nguyen has more on the local celebrations.
Bringing the songs of their ancestors to life, the bird singers are passing down thousands of years of tradition to the next generation. The rhythmic songs and dance are accompanied by gourd rattles.
These were given to us from these 4 sacred birds.
Raymond Berlardis is a bird singer from the San Pascual Band of Mission Indians. They hosted the all-day celebration at the San Diego Zoo Safari Park today. He says these songs are not just a story, but also a way of life.
It's how our people should live, and it tells a story from sun up, sundown, and all around, so these songs are very sacred to us.
Throughout the safari park, there are displays of Native American arts and culture. In the kids' activities area, children learn about the Native American creation stories as well as games.
Grinding the acorns to make a bowl.
Willow Sodano is learning to make a game called Chuhat. It's a Payam Kawicham game.
The Payam Kawicham are also known as the Saño. And these games, they help us practice hand-eye coordination and also teach us about patience, which is very important to have.
The object of the game is to get all the acorn tops through the stick one by one in order. Indigenous Peoples Day has only been celebrated here in California recently. For the local tribes, it means a celebration of their culture, but for them, Indigenous Peoples Day is every day.
We've had to fight for everything that we have. We continue to have to fight for what we have.
Jenny Alto is the secretary-treasurer for the San Pasqual Band of Mission Indians. She says the day is about the celebration of Native cultures.
It's a day for us to truly celebrate, who we are, where we came from.
Honoring where they came from is why Berlardis continues to sing the bird songs and to pass that tradition on.
I always tell the kids, keep learning, keep dancing, keep trying.
And keep the traditions alive for the next 1,000 years. Alexander Nguyen, KPBS News.
California regulators are poised to shake up the solar market for apartments, schools, and farms. An administrative law judge is proposing changes that make the economics of investing in solar projects unappealing. KPBS environment reporter Eric Anderson has details.
The California Public Utilities Commission rewrote the rules for solar on single-family homes last year, and they could do the same for bigger complexes that have one solar array with multiple metered hookups. It's part of the legislatively mandated review of the state's solar rules. Changes approved for single-family homeowners slash the value of electricity sold back to the grid. The new proposed decision calls for an end to something called virtual net metering.
One multifamily property with multiple meters that go into each unit, and virtual net metering allows that property to install one solar system on the property.
Berg works with the Center for Sustainable Energy, and that organization does not have a position on the proposed decision. But she says virtual net metering allows an apartment complex owner to use solar-generated electricity to power community spaces and share the proceeds with residents. She says the process is fairly common.
So there's contractors that specialize in virtual net metering, and they are experts to help property owners go and figure out how to break up the allocation so that each property or each tenant is getting the desired amount.
But California's investor-owned utilities, including San Diego Gas and Electric, argue in their legal filings that developing an updated virtual net metering program is too complicated and too expensive.
The utilities have no problem billing us. They can figure that out. What they're complaining about is giving us credits and lowering our energy bills. They're saying that that's just too difficult, and we just don't buy it. We know it's not true.
SDG&E declined a chance to comment. Utilities also support the recommendations to require complexes to sell their solar-generated electricity to the utilities at the wholesale price and require them to buy that same electricity from the utility at the retail price. The panels could not be used to offset usage at the complexes like in single-family homes.
We are developers of affordable housing. We build multifamily housing, and we've been installing solar in a lot of our apartments.
Manriquez runs a social services nonprofit in San Diego County. His agency operates a 300-unit affordable housing complex in southeast San Diego. He says virtual net metering allows everyone in the complex to benefit.
We want solar because it is using solar. It is using a natural resource. It does have substantial savings to our operations on the cost that the landlord pays, but then the savings also get passed through to the residents for the utilities that they spend individually in their own unit.
But Manriquez says changing the rules makes solar financially unappealing, and others say changes are unfair and hurt communities of color.
through this proposed decision, which would virtually end the program, is really taking multiple steps back for us. And really for us, we believe it's going to perpetuate a long legacy of environmental racism.
The California Public Utilities Commission was set to take up the issue last month, but postponed that decision a couple of weeks. Some observers think some changes may be in the works. But the solar industry says it is still the same commission that gutted financial benefits for single-family homeowners.
We really would like to see this commission to get back into the place of promoting distributed rooftop solar for Californians. We need 10 times more solar power than we have today. And we're not going to get there if we basically, tie up the economics of solar for renters.
The CPUC's 5 commissioners will likely decide the fate of the proposal when they meet on Thursday. Eric Anderson, KPBS News.
It's a tough time for potential home buyers. Right now, the average U.S. mortgage rate is nearly 7.5%, and that's the highest level in 23 years. Mike Valerio has details on what home buyers can do to get the best rate from lenders.
Americans are feeling the impact of inflation in most areas of their lives, but getting a high mortgage rate now can make a big dent on your bank account for decades. The average U.S. mortgage rate is 7.49%. The highest level in 23 years.
You're not going to get 4%, but you can make sure that you're getting the best rate that's out there.
Greg McBride with Bankrate.com says there are a few things you can do to show lenders you're a low risk.
Make sure your credit report is accurate and do everything you can to increase your credit score there. That means pulling copies of your credit reports and getting incorrect information removed from that report.
He says it's good to shop around.
Ideally, you want to compare quotes and you want to put in an application with as many as 3 different lenders and do so as close to the same period of time as possible. You want to do all those on the same day. That way you get a real apples to apples comparison, not just on the rate that's available, but also the fees that the lender is charging.
After doing your research, if the numbers still don't work for you, you may want to hit the pause button on purchasing a new home.
Another couple of years of paying down debt, boosting savings, maybe another promotion at work that boosts your income could put you in a position where home ownership is much more tenable a year or two from now than it is today.
In Los Angeles, I'm Mike Valerio reporting.
Homelessness is a crisis affecting all parts of San Diego County, including the South Bay. Last week, the Chula Vista City Council updated residents on the city's plans to address the issue. KPBS reporter Corey Suzuki says officials are leaning away from a San Diego-style camping ban.
It was in June when the city of San Diego passed its controversial camping ban, a sweeping ordinance that made it illegal for unhoused residents to set up encampments in public spaces. Across California, many cities have been taking similar aggressive actions. Chula Vista is also home to many unhoused residents, and officials there were already starting to talk about what a ban in their city might look like. In August, Chula Vista Mayor John McCann asked city staff to look at different options based on laws in San Diego and other cities. But now, several months later, city leaders seem to be steering in a different direction. In a public meeting on homelessness last week, several council members said they wanted to take a closer look at some more limited restrictions.
I think we should be very specific. I don't think they should be overly broad, but I think there is something that we should already have them set to start moving forward.
The city council voted to explore the approach Los Angeles and Sacramento have taken. City staff say both of those cities focus on blocking camping only at specific places and at specific hours of the day. San Diego's camping ban is facing questions about whether it violates the rights of unhoused residents. Earlier this year, a panel of 3 federal judges struck down a similar law in the city of Grants Pass, Oregon. That city is now asking the U.S. Supreme Court to weigh in. At the meeting last week, Chula Vista Director of Housing and Homeless Services, Stacy Kurz, said a more limited ordinance would be more likely to hold up in court.
Both of these had been sued extensively and have revised their ordinances as a result of those lawsuits. But in my opinion, if the city of Chula Vista were to go forward with provisions, these are good examples of carefully crafted ordinances that I think don't run afoul of the rights of unsheltered people.
City staff also shared a number of other updates, including the results of a new city-led point-in-time count held last month. The new count found that Chula Vista's unhoused population is much larger than previous counts had shown. The city homeless outreach team counted 786 unhoused residents, almost double the number of people reported in San Diego County's last tally. Staff members emphasized that their number was also larger because it included people who were experiencing homelessness, but were currently staying in a hotel or motel, something they said the county does not track. The meeting ended with a number of residents sharing their thoughts on the homelessness crisis. Sandra J. says she's been experiencing homelessness for around 6 years now.
I know we're all learning. Some of us are angry, some of us are disappointed, some of us are excited. It's a mix. I see us all as trying. And I'm just giving you guys a look at one of the faces of a homeless individual in your city. Now my city.
Corey Suzuki, KPBS News.
It's that time of year again. Highly contagious respiratory viruses start spreading rapidly during the fall and the winter months. But there are things that you can do to help prevent infection. Mandy Gaither has more with a doctor on how to not get sick this virus season.
Across much of the U.S., illnesses are starting to tick up.
This is a season where respiratory viruses typically occur.
Overall, COVID-19 levels are currently dipping, but it remains a concern, causing nearly all virus-related hospitalizations since the start of the year, according to the CDC. Some major cities, including New York and Washington, D.C., are already starting to see high levels of healthcare visits for respiratory virus symptoms. Georgia and New Mexico are also seeing moderate levels. But you can protect yourself, and that starts with practicing healthy habits, says Dr. Jesse Bracamonte with Mayo Clinic.
Make sure you're getting plenty of rest. You're eating healthy, you exercise, you're taking care of yourself.
This season, there are also vaccines to prevent against 3 major respiratory illnesses: flu, RSV, and COVID-19.
These are effective for helping prevent severe threatening infection of these viruses, so consider that.
Bracamonte says if you're sick, stay home. That'll help stop the spread and protect those who are vulnerable to severe illness.
It's not worth going for your social event or work when you can stay at home and hopefully prevent your colleagues or family members and friends from getting sick.
And finally, don't forget to wash those hands. For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
Well, over the course of the next couple of days, we have some cooler air on the move. As I mentioned earlier on, the marine layer is going to be a huge factor. As it deepens, that means the clouds will linger longer, and that means, well, not as much warmth. Limited sunshine, limited warmth. Could we see some changes, though, by the time we get in toward the weekend? We're going to get pretty close to that point here in that extended forecast coming up in just a moment. But for tonight, partly cloudy skies anticipated. Will be dropping back down into the mid-60s. But again, as you work your way out toward the coast, we'll start to see again the clouds returning into some of those clouds. Again, will find their way all the way into some of the interior valleys. Watch what happens here. You can kind of see the progression. You'll see how some of those clouds move inland for a while, and then they begin to shrink. But hey, this is right around mid-morning, 10:30, 11 o'clock hour. And we still have some clouds here right along the coast. It's going to take some time, really, until the late afternoon that we see a few breaks, and then we see the clouds roll their way right back into the picture. Temperature-wise, we're going to be looking at numbers back in the 70s. Again, Oceanside, Chula Vista, 72. Again, morning clouds, some late-day sunshine away from the coast. Borrego Springs tops off at 93. Want to take you down the road, though, and to notice from a temperature standpoint, not a lot of change here at the coast. We can start to see a little bit more of an offshore flow, perhaps a little bit less in the way of cloud coverage later on this week toward the interior valleys. That also will signal a little bit warmer air as we top off at 80 degrees here briefly on Thursday. Over the mountainous terrain, though, it's going to be turning cooler later on this week and toward the upcoming weekend. There'll also be a little bit of a breeze blowing the next couple of days. And over the deserts, looks like our warmest air over the next 48 or so hours. But we do see the potential for some warmer air also returning later on this weekend. For KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Justin Pavic.
Dia de los Muertos, or Day of the Dead, is a popular Mexican tradition devoted to celebrating death, life, and memories of the departed. Well, this year, KPBS is hosting a digital community ofrenda, or altar, where you can celebrate a loved one who has passed away. You can share photos and memories through our website at kpbs.org/Day of the Dead, or you can call the number on your screen, 619-452-0228, and leave a message. And you can make sure to include your loved one's name, their relationship to you, your name, and where you're from. We're accepting submissions now through October 22nd. It is official. The Writers Guild of America has overwhelmingly ratified a new labor contract with Hollywood studios. The union announced today that of its members who cast ballots, 99% voted in favor of the 3-year agreement. It includes minimum salary increases, restrictions on studios' use of artificial intelligence, and a new residual formula for streaming programs. Some writers have already resumed work, with late-night talk shows returning to the air, but others are honoring picket lines of the striking SAG-AFTRA Actors Union. Labor talks between studios and SAG-AFTRA were set to continue today.
I'm Jeff Bennett. Tonight on the NewsHour, Israel orders a complete siege of Gaza. The latest coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
And here's a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom. Schools across the country lost track of students at alarming rates during the pandemic. On NPR's Morning Edition, why schools are still struggling with chronic absenteeism. And as Hispanic Heritage Month wraps up, KPBS Midday Edition is having a conversation on Afro-Latino identity with a professor from UC San Diego. And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Have a great evening.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following: and by viewers like you. Thank you.